So, Outlander was intense last night. So we definitely get to see a lot going on with Jamie in this episode. We didn't get too much Claire, but I get the feeling next episode we're definitely going to see her more, because she's actually starting a new journey. So, without further ado, let's talk about episode 2 of season 3. So in this episode, the episode's titled Surrender, and it's basically Jamie is dealing with not having Claire around, and it's 6 years into the future of their future. And basically what's going on is Jamie's living in a cave, and he's kind of I'd call him a hermit. He visits the family occasionally, but he doesn't talk much, and he's not himself. And it was really interesting to see that take on Jamie, just to see a whole new version of him. Because we've seen him go through a lot in the past 2 seasons, but this was probably one of his all-time lows, just completely, he's just not there. Even Jenny points out that James Fraser never returned. And that's true. So, basically, we see his life living in a cave, trying to avoid the British soldiers who keep visiting on occasion because they have a feeling that the family might know where he is. And they keep harassing them, and it leads to something really unfortunate, but we'll get to that. So, we actually get to see Fergus a lot in this episode, and we haven't seen him since he was taking the deed to Lallybroch to Lallybroch. So that was the last time we saw him in season 2. And he's 6 years older now. I'm not positive how old he is. I'm gonna say like 14 or 15. And he's hanging out with Jenny's sons a lot, and at one point, because they're not supposed to have weapons, they manage to find a gun, and they see a raven land on the wall of Lallybroch. And apparently the folklore is that it's bad luck for a raven to come when a baby is being born, which is happening at that moment because Jenny is giving birth to another child. So Fergus, in an attempt to protect the family, he shoots the bird, and unfortunately the British soldiers hear this, and when they come to see what the noise was, they raid the house, and unfortunately Jamie is at the house at that point. He hides with the baby. Jenny has to tell them that the baby died and that there was no weapon, but they don't believe her. They want to see the body of the baby, and I can't think of her name, Mary, I think. She's like the new housekeeper of Lallybroch. And she comes in and she says that she's the one who fired the gun to kill the raven. And it seems like they're going to take her in, but they decide to leave it be, and they just take the gun away. So that was one intense scene. And all of this that's going on, it's really getting to Fergus, and it's bothering him that the British soldiers keep taking Jenny's husband Ian away because they don't believe him that he doesn't know the location of Jamie, and he's tired of having to live under their rule. At one point when he's going to visit Jamie, he unfortunately knows, well, he knows that the British soldiers are following him. Unfortunately, this leads to a very disturbing scene. This is the scene, I read that this happened, and I didn't think it was going to happen so soon in the season, but I guess it makes sense in the events that happen. After taunting the British soldiers, he gets cornered, and they unmercifully chop off his hand. I knew it was coming, but it still got to me. And I felt so bad for Fergus because besides the taunting, he's very sweet. I'm just reliving that scene. So after the British soldiers leave, Jamie thankfully was around and he comes to Fergus's rescue and he manages to save him, thanks to methods that Claire taught him. And this is the pivotal moment that gets Jamie to realize he's really putting his family in danger. Like, he knew it before, but the fact that something terrible happened because he's still there, that is what gets to him. So he comes up with a plan to turn himself in, and this way the family will get the reward money, and he knows that they'll at least be taken care of. Unfortunately for him, he's going to have to go to prison, but he figures he's already living like he's in prison. He's living a life that's lonely and secluded. It's not much of a life, so he decides to do this for his family. And I just loved seeing in this episode the evolution of Jamie's way of living, the way he thinks. And it's so heartbreaking. Even at one point, he returns to Lallybroch and he sees Claire. It turns out to be Jenny, but he's still seeing her even after all this time, after 6 years. And it's just, you realize that she's somebody that he's never going to be able to let go of. And he has to find a way to live without her, which is really the challenge for him. It's just so sad. So, like I said, he does get turned into the British soldiers, and the family gets the reward money. And so now, in the next episode, we're going to see where he goes and how it seems like he's going to end up getting off, because I can never remember his name. He's the British soldier that was at the beginning of the season. He let Jamie go because his brother had told him that he would honor a debt where he would spare Jamie's life. So it looks like that debt is going to be stretched a little further. So that'll be interesting to see. As far as Claire in this episode, she's dealing with her own, like, she has to deal with not having Jamie there, and even though there was a hopeful, she was hoping that she and Frank could have a new life together, even though she's not 100% happy about it, she does actually want to be with him and have a happy, normal life. But not having Jamie there, she's very lonely, and you can tell she can't really talk to Frank the way that she used to talk to Jamie. So she's dealing with that and her sexual frustrations, and eventually it leads her to eventually try having an intimate relationship with Frank. And they do for a short time. Unfortunately, he quickly catches on to the knowledge that she's not really with him. She's imagining that she's with Jamie, because the way he tells is that she won't open her eyes, and it really bothers him. So the last attempt at really having a loving marriage just kind of fades out in this episode. And by the end of the episode, we see that they have 2 separate beds. They're no longer in the same bed. So, unfortunately, that's going to be their marriage. But, you know, you can't entirely blame Claire. She really loves Jamie, and she just can't keep lying to Frank. It's just all complicated. But one thing that I really liked with Claire's story in this episode, she admits that even though she's happy being a mother and living a normal life, she still wants to be part of something big. So one thing she does do, she signs up for a class and she's planning to become a surgeon. And this is where she meets Joe, I want to say his last name's Abernathy? I can't say it. She meets Joe, who's an African-American student, and he's one of the first African-American students. The professor there was very unthrilled at having him and her in his class, but I really like that they stand out. And you can tell that it's definitely going to be an exciting adventure for them. And I'm really curious to see their friendship and how they work together. So yeah, that was the episode, and one thing that really struck me was it dealt with both Jamie and Claire having to deal with not having each other. Because in the first episode, it was obvious they were dealing with that, but in different ways. Jamie had just finished the Battle of Culloden, and he was barely hanging by a thread. He wanted to die, and he just couldn't. He just couldn't. But this episode showed how they're both living without each other. How they're dealing with the loss and the absence. And I just really liked that even though they were separate, they were connected by that one thing that they really wanted, each other. So I'm really, really excited to see the next episode. It looks like Claire and Frank are going to have more marriage trouble, and it seems like he's threatening to leave. I don't remember if they mentioned... I think he was there till the very end of his life. So he might threaten, but probably not going to happen. And like I said, Jamie's going to be dealing with trying to get out of prison, and I think he's going to be sent... He was going to be sent to the American colonies, but I think that gets turned around, so... Like I said, I'm just basing this off of what I've read off the internet. I haven't read the books, but I know enough. So I'm really excited to see what happens. I am rooting for Claire and Jamie to get back together. I am excited to see that. I think it's going to happen in episode 6 or 7, they said. So yeah. Alright, I'm going to leave it here, and hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will be back for the next episode. Alright, have a good day, guys. Bye.